landmarks, though unseen by the world, often become sacred reminders. We don't have to hide them. In fact, they can be used to bring comfort to others. When we are honest about our scars, we give others permission to be honest about theirs. This creates space for real connection. Our pain becomes a tool, not just for our own transformation, but for helping others heal. What once felt like a private wound becomes a shared testimony. We discover that what tried to break us actually equipped us to build others. There is a quiet power in that truth, and it shows us that nothing we've endured is wasted. Even our suffering can become a gift when it is used with love and humility. In this way, our scars are not signs of shame. They are signs of strength. They declare, "I have walked through fire, and I am still here." There's a strange paradox in suffering. It strips us bare, yet somehow fills us with new awareness. We begin to see the world differently. Simple things take on deeper meaning. A smile from a friend, the quietness of a morning, the comfort of prayer. These small gifts, once overlooked, become treasures. Suffering rewires the heart to recognize what is real and lasting. It breaks our attachment to the temporary and awakens our longing for the eternal. We stop chasing distractions and start seeking depth. And though we may feel like we've lost much, we often gain what truly satisfies. Our desires shift, our prayers deepen, our hearts soften. This internal shift is one of suffering's greatest offerings. It's not loud or dramatic, but it's powerful. It's a realignment of the soul. And through that realignment, we begin to live differently, not out of fear or bitterness, but from a place of quiet strength. We become more grateful, more grounded, and more generous. And the life we once thought was broken, beyond repair, begins to bloom again, not in the same way, but in a deeper, more meaningful way that only suffering could have prepared us for. Pain has a way of silencing all the noise around us. It quiets the chatter of the world, the busyness of achievement, the constant demands for attention. And in that silence we are often confronted with ourselves, our thoughts, our fears, our longings. This confrontation can be uncomfortable, but it's also where truth is found. Suffering gives us the rare gift of self-awareness. It brings to light what's been buried, ignored, or hidden behind our distractions. Sometimes that includes unresolved grief. Other times it reveals unspoken dreams or unacknowledged wounds. Whatever rises to the surface, it invites us into honesty, and from that honesty, healing can begin. It may be slow, it may be messy, but it's real, and as we begin to face our inner world with courage, we discover that we're not alone. Grace meets us in the silence. Love finds us in the solitude. We begin to see that even in our most broken moments, something sacred is unfolding. And though the journey through pain is hard, it's also holy, because it is there, in the silence of suffering, that we often hear the quietest and most powerful truths about who we really are. In seasons of suffering, our prayers often change. We move from polished words to desperate cries. We drop the masks and speak with raw honesty, and while we may feel uncertain, this is actually where true connection is forged. Suffering teaches us to pray not for performance, but for presence. We stop asking for perfect outcomes and begin asking for strength, peace, and guidance. We begin to understand that prayer isn't just about answers, it's about relationship. It's where we bring our whole selves, our confusion, our anger, our longing, our surrender. In doing so, we create space for something sacred, a deeper intimacy, a quiet trust. Even when the pain doesn't go away, something within us begins to shift. We become more rooted, more aware of grace. And slowly we begin to sense that we are being held, even in the silence, even in the mystery. That kind of prayer doesn't always change our circumstances, but it changes us. It shapes our hearts. It strengthens our spirits. It gives us the courage to keep going, even when we don't have all the answers, because we know we are not walking through the fire alone. The most powerful truths often come through the most painful experiences. Suffering, while unwanted, has a strange ability to open our eyes. It reveals the fragility of life and the depth of love. It shows us what can be taken in a moment, and what remains forever, and among the things that remain we find faith. Not the kind of faith that avoids hard questions or denies real pain, but a tested, deep-rooted faith that has walked through darkness and still holds on. That kind of faith is unshakable, not because it never doubts, but because it chooses to believe anyway. It believes that purpose can emerge from pain, that healing can follow brokenness, that light still shines even after the night, and when we come to know that kind of faith, we carry it with us into every season. It becomes our foundation, a quiet, steady presence that reminds us we are not defined by what we suffer, but by how we rise through it. And as we rise, we carry with us the wisdom, strength, and compassion that can only come from a soul that has been refined by fire. Sometimes we emerge from suffering and realize that what once mattered no longer holds the same weight. The goals we chased, the validation we craved, the worries that consumed us, they begin to fade in importance. This is not bitterness, it's wisdom. Suffering clarifies what truly matters. It resets the compass of our hearts. We begin to seek meaning over success, depth over popularity, truth over comfort. It's a kind of awakening. And though it comes at a cost, it leaves us more whole. We find that we can live with less fear, because we've faced what we thought would break us. We can love more freely, because we know how fleeting time can be. We can speak more kindly, because we know the quiet pain others may carry. In this way, suffering expands our humanity. It doesn't make life easier, but it makes us more alive to it, more present, more open, more real. And those changes, born out of hardship, become the very things that help us live with purpose. They guide us in the days ahead, and they remind us that even when we walk through pain, there is a sacred strength being born within us. There is no timeline for healing. Each heart mends at its own pace, and part of the challenge in suffering is accepting that reality. We want to rush the process, to move past the ache and get to the resolution. But healing doesn't follow a schedule. It unfolds slowly, in layers, often unseen, and that's okay. Real healing honors the depth of what was lost or broken. It takes time to rebuild what was shaken. So we must be gentle with ourselves. We must allow room for both the progress and the setbacks, for moments of peace and waves of grief. This is not weakness, it's the way of growth. There's a quiet power in patience, in trusting that even when we don't feel it, healing is happening. It's happening in the way we breathe a little deeper, in the way we start to hope again, in the way we find the courage to laugh, to rest, to dream, and one day, without fanfare, we realize the pain no longer defines us. It shaped us, yes, but it did not steal who we are. We are more than our suffering. We are survivors, and more than that, we are being made whole. It's easy to compare our suffering to others and either minimize our own pain or feel overwhelmed by theirs. But pain is not a competition. Grief is not measured by quantity. Every person's story is unique, and each journey through suffering is sacred. What matters is not whose pain is greater, but how we walk through our own. When we stop comparing, we begin to truly connect. We become better listeners, better friends, better companions in the dark. Our empathy deepens, not because we've experienced exactly the same thing, but because we've known what it means to hurt. And in that shared humanity, something beautiful forms. We become the kind of people who sit with others in their sorrow, not rushing them, not fixing them, just being present. That presence is one of the most powerful gifts we can offer. It says, you're not alone, your pain matters, and even here there is hope. When we give that to others, we also give it to ourselves. We create a world where pain is not hidden, but honored, where healing is not hurried, but held, and where suffering is not the end of the story, but the soil where compassion grows. There is a kind of beauty that only suffering reveals. Not the beauty of flawless moments or perfect scenes, but the beauty of depth, honesty, and resilience. It's the beauty in a quiet sunrise after a sleepless night, in a tear-streaked smile that still dares to hope, in a heart that has been broken and still chooses to love. This beauty is not loud, but it is profound. It reminds us that even in our most fragile moments we carry something sacred. Suffering strips away what's superficial and reveals the core of who we are. And at that core we find strength we didn't know we had. We find courage that rises not in the absence of fear, but in the face of it. We find faith that clings to hope, even when the future is unclear. And as we begin to live from that place, our lives take on a deeper texture. They become rooted not in ease, but in authenticity. And that kind of life, scarred, honest, beautiful, is a gift. It doesn't deny pain, it transforms it. And in that transformation we find a meaning far greater than comfort. We find the glory of becoming fully alive. In the aftermath of suffering, when the dust begins to settle and the ache begins to ease, we may wonder what to do next. How do we move forward? How do we live after the loss, after the change, after the season of pain? The answer is not in forgetting, but in integrating. We carry what we've learned. We let our hearts remain soft. We remember that life is fragile and therefore precious. We begin to live with more intention. We speak more kindly. We listen more closely. We forgive more easily. We make room for others' pain because we've known our own, and we walk forward not as people untouched by suffering, but as people shaped by it. People who have known the valley and still choose to climb. This is the quiet miracle of healing. Not just that we feel better, but that we live better, with more purpose, with more compassion, with more depth. Suffering does not get the final word. It is part of the story, but not the whole story. And as we step into the future, we do so carrying both our scars and our strength, and that